Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, February 16th. I wanted to provide some general feedback in the form of this video for your discussion board number 2 regarding the Merck veterinarian study. I have graded all of your individual discussion boards and I have given you all individual feedback, so please make sure you see those. But wanted to also provide this kind of larger group feedback as well. And this is because this was a little bit of a different discussion board. It was really great to see all of your responses and all of your posts. I kind of led on in the discussion board question that there was something suspicious about this study, but that's kind of all I gave you. I didn't really realize until afterwards when I was grading it that I didn't really give you a whole lot to go on, which was maybe not so good at times, but by and large part, it was really cool to see everyone's very different responses and what you picked up on and what you thought was suspicious or wasn't, or I thought the responses were going to be a bit more uniform, but they were really variable, which was really cool to see. So major props to all of you. Some of you may know, or I may have mentioned in one of my introductory things, that my wife is a veterinarian, so for about 5 years now I have been pretty wrapped up in that world, and actually next September, so this coming September, I am actually speaking at a large annual veterinarian conference about mental health. Traditionally in the veterinarian field, mental health is very stigmatized and very minimized and downplayed. And over the last 10 years or so, there's been a lot coming out about veterinarian suicides and mental health distress and different sorts of things. So then we have this article. And I want to clear up a few things just in your general responses to clear up, and then I want to share with you, kind of having studied this now because I'm doing a talk this September, and of course being married to a veterinarian, some of my thoughts on this Merck study. So first off, a lot of you noted on one of the slides it said 11 tested, and a lot of people interpreted this as 11 people were tested, and I can totally see how you interpreted it this way. This is not on you, this is on the people who made that PDF, because I can see how you would interpret it that way. But what they meant there was not people tested, but it should have read 11 variables tested, because there were 11 different things there that they tested across all 3,500 plus participants. So, but that's something that a lot of people interpreted it a different way and thought that was concerning, which it would have been, of course. Some people kind of talked about a small sample size, and almost 3,600 people compared to 20,000 is not huge, but in terms of what they were trying to do, I think it was certainly adequate. Generally speaking, when you try to get people to fill out surveys and you send out stuff to people, it can be difficult to get responses back, just kind of in general. So that's something to think about, and I think that was kind of okay. Let's see. Some of you remarked on comparing. Why did they compare to the general population? This is something that wasn't very well explained in that PDF, but in the longer version that I talked about in the discussion board question, they do talk about how they do describe how they compare their results to a long-standing longitudinal study on U.S. citizens about just things. So there's large data sets out there that track people for long periods of time that people can use as benchmarks to kind of compare their data to. You don't see it super often, but in a case like this, it was an okay thing to do. So that was more structured and more kind of detailed had you had the full thing. Let's see, and I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much either, so I didn't give you the full thing, and I mentioned that, but maybe I should have. Let's see. So let's get down to maybe then why I think this is a really suspicious piece of work, and why other veterinarians in the field have really kind of denounced this study and why it's concerning to other people as well. A lot of you pointed out very appropriately that it was conducted by Merck, which is a large pharmaceutical company. Break Consulting, which you had to dig further to know a lot about, but that's a little suspicious. And anytime you have any research that is conducted by some sort of company that may have a vested interest in the outcome, then you certainly need to look at that with a skeptical eye. So, and there were really two companies who were leaders in this research that made this from the get-go a little bit skeptical. A lot of you pointed out, and this is true for the longer version too, that there's just a lot of stuff missing. Like there's a lot of gaps, there's holes. Some of you pointed out it would be great to see differences in veterinarians, like large animal or small animal or rural or urban or whatever, and they didn't really do that very well. They did some stuff with age and gender, but that was about it. So there were definitely gaps there. They were also a little bit protective of the questions they asked and how they were presented and things like that. That was a little bit suspicious as well. But I was not expecting anyone to get what I'm about to say next, because again, I have a pretty intimate knowledge of the veterinarian field and I've been doing research on this, so I wasn't expecting, even when I wrote this discussion board, for any of you to get this next part. One or two of you actually did, which was really cool. But the main reason why I think Merck published this study was because they are trying to minimize the mental health crisis or challenges or concerns in the field of veterinary medicine. So I'm not saying that there's a full-blown, oh my God, type of crisis, but there's certainly major problems. There's certainly concerning suicides, levels of depression, anxiety. There's a lot of stigma. And there's been, as the study said, there's been a couple of publications that have come out in the last few years that have really highlighted some of these concerns in a very good way, like a very well-researched way. And I might post that somewhere, so you can read those if you're interested in it. It is interesting to read about. There's been a couple of studies that have really shown in a very detailed way some of these major concerns in the field. And then Merck comes out with this kind of vague study. It's not peer-reviewed, that says essentially, well, there's really not that big of a problem. We have a little bit of a well-being problem, but that's about it. So, and why would they want to do that? Well, they're trying to they don't want mental health concerns to discourage people from entering the field because it's their customers, right? If people start fleeing the field, or if there's lots of problems, then that's not good for anybody. So it's good to kind of just make things look all smooth and pretty and give some pretty recommendations for things. But that is my take on things. That's my take on things. That's I think some other people share some of the same views in the field, that we do have a serious problem, and that we really need to start addressing it and not minimizing it. And that's what there seems to be flavors of that here in this article. The NET article that they talk about is a really good one, and they're seemingly trying to discredit that. So that's my take on it. I think I'll try to post that NET article if anyone's just curious and wants to look at that. You'll see a major difference there, and maybe I'll post the longer version of the PDF thing here. Again, I really appreciated all of your responses. Many of you did just a really, really good job in sharing what you think, and there was a good amount of people who thought, well, maybe Merck is trying to make this a big deal because they also sell human drugs, and so maybe they're trying to bolster their human drug sales. That was a legitimate thought and legitimate theory that some people kind of subscribe to, and you guys really did some good critical thinking and thinking thinking on the matter. So anyway, I just wanted to post a little bit about that and share with you all. I hope you're all doing well, and I really look forward to the next discussion board. Thanks.